All right, everybody. Hey, welcome to This Pink Cloud. I am 𝐄𝐍𝐉𝐎, and you are watching a show about multiple pathways to recovery as well as mental health. Yes, thank you. Thank you for the flatulence there, Chadwick. Anyway, sitting in with me, as always, my good buddy, my partner in crime with the music, Mr. Chad Lamons, everybody.
I don't even know this guy. I'm not buddies with him.
Hey, who are you?
Huh?
What are you doing
Whoa.
here?
Hey, man. Good to see you, man. What's your
Hey,
name
bro.
again?
Hey, brother.
Hey.
Good to see you, man.
How you doing?
Hey,
man.
brother.
Hey, man. Hey, man. Hey, man.
Hey, man.
Hey, brother.
Hey, when did you get here, man?
Oh,
Hey,
shit, man. I forget your name, dude, but I know you.
Hey, man, you look familiar.
Hell
dude. Anyway, be sure and subscribe. We're on all the major streaming platforms. Excited to have this guy in. Actually, he was a referral from a good buddy, Tony D, who we had on a while back.
Shout out.
But it is, and I am going to get it correct, Don, and it's not Radon, it's Don
Radon.
Yes.
See, yeah, dude.
And I used to play middle linebacker for the Oakland Raiders in the 80s. And, dude, you've got that voice, dude.
Yeah, it's been 35 years of hard smoking.
Yeah. Well,
hell yeah.
Hey, congratulations on that.
Thank you very much.
But, you do actually Recovered and Free, also known as Recovered AF.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and the family will only know it as Recovered and Free, and us addicts know it as Recovered as Fuck.
Right.
Hell
There
yeah.
we go. Well, I'm excited to have you on because not only do you have your organization, which is doing good things, but you've had your own experience. And I love to get people on with that experience to share their knowledge and, obviously, the tragedy that goes along with your past substance use. But please take it away, and thank you for coming on.
Well, thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And I'm really glad Chad put the fart in there because I'd seen your podcast before.
Right. It's
I
always
didn't want to
there.
be left out.
It's always the necessity. Well, no, usually he'll give the guests the hallelujah music and me the flatulence.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Or the wah, 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 wah.
I started doing that when I come on. Just
Right.
like, it's like, oh, guys, everybody, here's Chad.
Oh, sad Chad, everybody.
Oh, man.
Well, my story is probably similar to a lot of other men and women in recovery. I'm 53 years old now, and I came into my first meeting in 1987, November 11th, 1987.
All right.
And there was no Cocaine Anonymous in this little town. I grew up in Canada. Don't hold it against me.
Yeah,
I lost
what
that
up,
a
gang?
long time ago. Yeah.
Right. Well, where in Canada?
A little farming town called Bradford.
Okay,
Ontario,
and
Canada.
what is that? Is that
That's like
Providence,
60 miles north of Toronto in Ontario.
Ontario? Okay. All right.
And a small farming town. I'm a twin brother.
Oh wow. Okay.
I'm the evil twin.
Hell yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We're fraternal, and the only reason I mention that is because a lot of people think that there's a big movement today about addiction being causal and that it's trauma based. And I believe that that's true for some folks.
Sure.
But in my instance, we grew up in the same home of alcoholism and addiction. We grew up in the same abuse system, etc. And I'm an addict and alcoholic, and he's not.
Right.
And so you couldn't really get a better test subject for the causal idea.
Right.
And so, I started drinking and doing drugs real young with a wonderful little drug you guys call Foot Locker here.
Okay. Medusa.
Yeah.
Yeah,
little
dude.
rush.
I know that well. Yeah. I tried that, and then of course, there was the graduation from drinking alcohol. Oh, let's take some, basically trucker speed or ephedrine, ephedra, and they used to call them mini thins. So let's take some of that.
Crosstabs.
Yeah. So the white cross.
Yeah, that's right.
And then you take those so you can drink more. So
right.
Anyway.
And so I mean that's really the progression of my story is very similar to everyone else's. I started out with Rush, and then I realized I wanted to stay that way the rest of my life.
Right. Yeah.
With the wah-wahs.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Right.
And
We gotta sample that.
So I graduated to paint, and then it was on to gasoline.
right. It was and then weed and hashish, which was real popular at the time.
Right.
I don't know. If
Well,
the
hey,
kids
guess
even know
what?
what hash is anymore.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, but it's like different. It's like butane made and all this stuff. It becomes an oil, and then they morph it down even fancier into a wax and all this stuff. But yeah, I remember hash when I was smoking because it was just it's just keef that's collected and squeezed.
Well, and what's crazy is like the weed has graduated from back when we were in high school to now. I'm like, oh my god, dude! Like from where it was, like we get like some Mexican shake, dude, like some Mexican dirt weed,
Schwag.
and then it's graduated to like this like laboratory.
Oh,
you are the government issue.
There's no way that those color crystals grow naturally on weed.
Right. Yeah. So it's definitely changed since you and I, but yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. So, smoking weed and drinking was a staple in my life, and by all the promises that we make, the lines in the sand, I'll never do chemicals. I'll never do cocaine, etc.
Right.
By 15, 16, I'm doing cocaine and already dropped acid and doing mushrooms and just the whole shebang.
We had one guy on that was like, oh well, I'm on heroin, but I'm never gonna shoot it up. And then he's like, I'm not okay. Now I'm gonna shoot it up, but I'm just not gonna shoot myself in my chode, dude. And that's my next bar, dude. Yeah, but that's funny, the line in the sand thing.
Yeah. I mean, and it's a moving target.
Yeah.
Because once I survived cocaine, I was like, oh man, this stuff is great.
Right? It smells great.
Yeah, I don't like the effect. I just like how it smells.
Right.
And the same thing with acid. I'd drop 4 or 5 hits and launch off into, the 5th dimension of existence that I didn't know existed.
Right.
And this is at 17 years old. By this time, I'm kicked out of high school. Mom and dad are pretty much done with me. I've got to work and pay room and board, which I found really insulting.
Right.
Because my twin brother, who's having to do homework, doesn't have to pay anything.
Right.
So I just kind of went from dead-end job to dead-end job. And
well, you mentioned also your parents were alcohol.
Well,
right?
my father was.
Okay.
And he was an over-the-road truck driver. And,
right.
would drive really long distances without sleep.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's where the trucker speed comes in. Yeah, for sure.
And drinking is just, if you kick my family tree hard enough, a bunch of drug addicts and alcoholics hit the road, hit the ground running like cockroaches and try to pick your pocket.
Right.
So it was just the apple didn't fall far from the tree.
Right.
And at 17, I had my first overdose, and that's when I decided maybe I've got a little problem with drugs.
Right.
Not alcohol. Like, don't call me an
What'd you
alcoholic.
overdose on?
Yeah.
I actually don't know. It was cocaine mixed with something.
Yeah. And that was before
And,
the advent of fentanyl.
Yeah.
So,
no fentanyl.
yeah.
Also no Narcan. Like,
Yeah.
you really had to know what was up.
Yeah.
So I went to my first Alcoholics Anonymous meeting, which I am not a speaker on behalf of that 12-step fellowship by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm an atheist, or was an atheist, hardcore, staunch, anti-establishment, anti-organized religion. I walk into this AA meeting and I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
Everybody wants me to have some Kool-Aid. Like everybody had some stock in coffee products. Like, the coffee's over here.
It's like an MLM meeting, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, where do I sign up to sell your electricity? You piece of shit.
Right. And your coffee.
Yeah.
Right.
The coffee's over here. Would you like some more coffee? And, because it was a small town that I grew up in, I'm walking in, and there's my judo teacher, there's the librarian. I'm like, anonymous, my ass.
Right.
And I don't know. I listened to how it works. I looked at the screens with
The 12 and 12
steps and the trial traditions, and I was just thought, man, I'm not down for this. Like all this God business, you can dress it up and
it's
call
like
higher
a little
power if you want to.
It's a little.
I
mean, it comes off. I mean, when your first initial idea of it, it's a little culty, dude.
It is daunting.
Absolutely.
Daunting to say the least.
For sure. And
because the 12 traditions and this like this, and I'm like, okay, where's the secret?
Where's the sex room, dude?
Where's the secret handshake and all that stuff?
And the basket gets passed, and now I know whoever's collecting it, they're the ones with the Jaguar in the parking lot. Like, I get it. I see what you're doing here.
Right.
And then the trick. Just stay sober one day at a time. What do you think? I'm a fucking idiot? Like 1 day plus 1 day plus. You mean the rest of my life?
Yeah, right.
That's what you're really saying.
Yeah.
You're not saying just for today.
Yeah, right.
Because when I wake up just for tomorrow, you mean just for today.
Right.
So I wasn't buying it.
Right.
But one person had said eons ago in my life that if God drives you out of Alcoholics Anonymous, drugs and alcohol drive you back in.
Right.
And that was really my experience. I don't know if you guys have siblings, but my twin brother and I fought. Like, I mean, fist fought from little. And he was always bigger than I was.
Right.
And he would whip my ass to the ground
Right.
every single time. And I'd tell him, Uncle, I'm done.
Dude, what was your brother, like 7 foot, dude? Like,
He's shorter than me now.
You're no small in stature.
No.
Yeah.
I sprouted up at 18.
Oh.
But yeah, he would whip my ass.
It's all that
and I'd
speed,
give up.
dude.
Yeah,
That's the secret to extra height.
The speed. The speed was the growth hormone. Yeah.
That's why they took it off the market. Goddamn government conspiracy piece of shit.
They're just making people taller.
Right.
And he, I would give up. I'd say, that's it. I'm done. And he'd get up and he'd walk away. He'd turn his back to me, and I'd grab a hockey stick and just hit him as many times as I could over the head. And
Right.
he'd disarm me, barrel me down to the ground. And this would go on for hours at a time.
Dude,
Because I would not give up.
Your mom would come home and be like, what?
No, she would just kick us out.
Yeah.
Like, when the fighting started, she's like, take it outside.
Yeah,
she
right.
didn't want us to break furniture, walls, anything.
Right, dude, it's like,
Just take it outside.
it's all of a sudden turning into the WWE in your living room and your poor mom, dude.
Have you
man.
seen the movie Hot Rod?
I have not.
Oh, okay, cool. You will watch it. That's the mental image I just got.
Well,
Because he fights his stepdad in it. They're just fucking. That's all. He just wants to prove his love to him by beating him up.
that's awesome. Yeah, I like it already.
Yeah.
And so the reason I'm telling this story is because that's how my alcoholism and addiction showed up. Like, I'd take a good run at it for as long as I could, and then it would barrel me down to the ground with some kind of consequences, some kind of thing,
Yeah,
some
it was
cost
basically
that I didn't
your,
wanna pay.
but like a snapshot of your mental, like how you dealt with things.
Yeah. I mean, I was a pharmaceutical test pilot. I tried
Dude,
everything that I
We
could.
were fucking scientists working for the good of humanity, dude, doing field research, man.
Yes, I'll take 7 of those, 3 of those, and 15 of that. Half a line of this, and that will be the magic.
All right,
cure.
that combination.
Hey, man, you don't need
Yeah.
a test kit, dude. You get that pH shit out of here. I'll tell you if it's good or not.
Right.
And so I kept bouncing in and out, and I just couldn't swallow all the tenets. And a lot of the things that I was taught or that I heard in meetings, I'd never heard that we could get well, number one. Number two, I'd see, and I don't know if there's a Dave listening, but I'm not talking to you, Dave. But you'd hear, Grateful Dave. He's got like 400 years of sobriety.
Yeah.
My name is Dave, and I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic. And I'm looking at Dave.
This guy
right?
needs his
I'm
own
like,
fucking podcast, dude.
fucking I got in 30 years of sobriety, I'm gonna sound like you. Like,
Yeah,
shoot me,
dude, yeah.
Like, thanks, Grateful Dave.
Yeah.
This is gratitude.
Thanks for the
Screw me.
Thanks for the Ghost of Christmas Future visit there, dude. I'm like,
You're pulling me with a vision
yeah,
for
right.
sure. And so, just the one day at a time stuff. And, why if you can't make it that 1 minute at a time and
keep
begging
coming
God,
back. It works if you work it.
Yeah, and I remember being 18, 19 years old, standing in that circle going, what the fuck is it?
Yeah.
Like, tell me what it is, and I'll work it because I'm worth it.
Yeah, right.
You're worth it, so work it.
Yeah, right.
So, I just didn't know what it was, and I thought it was going to the meeting or before the meeting and the meeting after the meeting. And I got to tell you, like the meeting after the meeting, I'm sick and tired of eating at Denny's.
Yeah.
And I'm getting involved. I'm making coffee, and this is when you can smoke in meetings, and I'm cleaning ashtrays
Right.
and mopping floors and getting loaded. I'm chairing meetings and getting loaded. I'm going to 90 meetings in 90 days and getting loaded. I'm going to 270 meetings in 90 days and getting loaded. Like everything I'm told to do, it may work for other people.
Right.
It's working. Like you go to the sober pajama dance party
Right.
and people are staying sober like that. And I couldn't do it. I started to, at about, I guess, within a 2-year period, I'm thinking I'm one of those constitutionally incapables. Like obviously I can't differentiate the true from the false. Like I don't know what that is. I'm just made that way. And then I got magically sober on the fellowship.
Okay.
And I dated only AA women and worked for only AA employers and
Magically sober.
yeah,
Right.
Dating
yeah,
AA women. Magically,
absolutely. Old timers would say, "Oh, behind every slip is a relapse."
Right.
It's like, well, let me go find out. And, I stayed sober almost 6 years.
Okay.
My mom convinced me to go back to college, which I didn't even have high school. I didn't even have a GED.
Right. Well, so when you got sober for that period, because, you were in the rooms, it sounded like for a long term, like a long period. How long did it take to stick to where you could string together 6 years?
Well, that was a couple of years in the making.
Okay.
Right. Just bouncing. And so I didn't really work any steps. I could talk about it. I could parrot everything that was said. Or if I heard you tell something funny in a meeting, then the next meeting I'd tell it like it was my own. And
Right.
I don't even really get the big book reference that you're talking about or anything. But
dude, I'm going to add that to my material.
yeah, I just I just parroted everything I heard.
Right.
And when people would come in talking that big book shit, I'd be the vocal one in the meeting who would share at them and say, "We don't do that here. We share our real feelings."
Share at them.
The crosstalk. The crosstalk rule was
right
invented
at
for
the
you.
Guy. Yeah, right at the guy.
Right.
You can put that big book away. And, there is power in the fellowship. There is.
Yeah.
The problem with that power is that you got to be immersed in it to.
Well, the problem is there's a bunch of alcohol and drug addicts running it.
Right. Well, and there's also like 23 other hours in a day.
Yeah.
Unless you're carrying other addicts and alcoholics in your pocket, there's going to come that fateful moment when all the trust is back and and there's nothing but air and opportunity between you and that next blast.
Yeah.
And here we go.
Right.
And so I was able to. I married a runaway model. She was gorgeous and a sex addict. It was a perfect match.
There you go, dude.
Yeah.
Couldn't stand her taste in music, but that's not why I married her.
Right.
And I started to come up in my then chosen profession, which was IT training when it was just starting out on the market.
Sure.
And I came up pretty quick, and sobriety didn't have a lasting impression on me. I just thought, well, look at all I've accomplished. I'm managing 60 employees. I've got a corner office. I've got a stenciled parking spot with my last name on it.
You've got it under control.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Clearly, I can smoke a little weed.
Right.
It's just pot,
dude.
Yeah, and in those 6 years, pot had evolved quite a bit. It wasn't just pot. And I think I made it 2 or 3 days before I was back on cocaine.
Oh, wow.
And yeah, I'm now I've lived in 47.
You know what would go? You know what would go great with this pot?
I was just
So
about to
it's like
say.
some cocaine, dude. You know?
I mean, it's a natural evolution.
Right, exactly, dude. Some booze and some cocaine would go great with this pot.
It's a logical next step in your addiction.
Right.
And now I've lived in 47 U.S. cities since 1994.
Right.
And I'm living currently at this time in Atlanta, Georgia.
Okay.
And because, when you move a lot, you get to start with a clean slate. Nobody knows you.
Sure.
That's why I moved 47 times.
Right.
Because,
I had to clear that.
within a few days, people knew me.
I had to shake that Etch-a-Sketch 47 times. Dude.
My slate's
You'll get
clean as
that,
shit.
Right? You get the Etch-a-Sketch reference, dude. Like,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So I'm in South Atlanta on Ponce de Leon Avenue, smoking crack like a gentleman. You know,
It was near Peachtree Street, right?
I mean, yeah,
Because there's
all
only
48.
Yeah,
of them,
right. Exactly. There's 48. Like Atlanta has 48 different,
or
like, Peachtree
something like
streets.
that. Yeah, it's ridiculous
Something
the amount
crazy.
of Peachtree streets. There.
Yeah.
And so, I found myself in trouble in Atlanta, and I moved away from Atlanta to get away from cocaine. So I moved to South Florida.
That's a great spot. Right?
That's where it fucking comes from to Atlanta.
Right.
Point source,
It
dude.
was a really good move. And I mean, I'm at 3:00 in South Florida. It rains every single day at 3:00. You can set your watch to it and cocaine.
Yeah. Right. Sure.
Yeah. So, needless to say, in this time span, obviously I'm now divorced, and I keep bouncing in and out because it seems like it's the only show in town. I don't have any insurance, so there's no treatment center other than state-funded options, and I've been to state-funded detoxes a couple of times and was like, put me down for no thank you. I was, high quality.
Right.
Homeless drug addict who would never walk into a state funded facility.
You people
Right.
are fucked.
You guys.
You people are
dirty.
filth.
I'm going back to my bridge.
Under this palm tree right here in this abandonminium. And I kept bumping up against these stupid 12 steps, and I met somebody who introduced me to the 12 steps as they were written in the big book, and we went through this process, and I had a pretty decent experience with it. Kind of changed my view about this whole higher power thing, God thing, and the unfortunate thing about this 12-step way of life is that it has to be a way of life. It's not like you just, do it one time and you're good to go, wash your hands of it, and by this time I was in some pretty serious legal problems.
Started seeing those repercussions.
Yeah, and I was wanted, across state lines.
Well, one of your 47 different states.
Dude,
Yeah,
that
new
you were there. Right.
image.
the only
Right.
fucking
New
the
image.
only states he wasn't wanted in were like fucking Puerto Rico, Hawaii, and Alaska.
No,
dude.
and South Dakota. No, he was probably wanted in Alaska.
Wyoming, dude.
And
Wyoming's not even a state, bro.
South Dakota.
It's just pretty.
South Dakota and Rhode Island because Rhode Island's so small.
One, Washington
But-
D.C. because it's a district.
There you
Right,
go.
so-
There you go.
Actually, K Street in Washington D.C. is not to be messed with. Don't trifle with.
Oh, trust
K
me, I've been
Street.
to been to DC before. Yeah.
Yeah, if they would only turn the cameras around when they're filming the White House, then you
Oh.
would see what the place is actually like.
But yeah, well, they know that McDonald's right over there, dude. It's fun, definitely.
So I got to that ninth step and making amends, and I wrote this letter basically to these two agencies, turning myself in, saying, okay, because the book says, hey, it doesn't matter what the consequences are, we may face jail, right? Which my sponsor wasn't really happy about pointing that out to me. And so I wrote these letters and I sent them off to the states and agencies that needed to have them. And 2 weeks later, I get a letter from the great state of Texas that says, like we say here in Texas, you might as well let sleeping dogs lie. We don't even see any charges against you.
Right.
Oh,
Oh,
like,
bonus.
I mean, the clouds parted, the
Right.
sunbeams of Jesus came down on me, and
And you go, I'm moving to Texas.
The angels are blowing trumpets. I'm
Right.
like, there is a God. And then
Right.
the next second, I'm like looking down, thinking it's a setup, see if there's any red dots on my chest. you know?
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. The laser
And then
scope.
the next day,
Uh-huh.
I get another letter that
Uh-huh.
says, we don't have any record.
Yeah.
Now, not 4 months earlier, a door got kicked by the U.S. Marshals in Atlanta looking for me. And they don't just like go, oh,
Yeah,
well,
yeah.
we gave it a good shot. You guys want to get some coffee and a donut?
Right.
They were on to me. They were close. And somehow this power moved.
Mm-hmm.
And I did what any lazy, entitled drug addict would do
Mm-hmm.
and go, thanks a lot, God. I'm good.
Right.
I got this
We're
from
good.
I'm good. You know,
Right.
appreciate you. I'm not going to
Call you in the next hailstorm.
Yeah, no
Yeah,
10
call
steps,
you in the
11.
next hailstorm.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, when the locusts are landing.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
And so I go off on another tear, find another wonderful woman to kidnap, and good Christian gal who didn't see me coming. You know,
Right.
Like just did not see me coming. And great woman gave me my firstborn daughter, and that was one of those, you know, that creed with arms wide open. Right? Like,
No,
I'm like,
with arms wide open.
I'm like, man, now I have a reason to never ever do this.
Right.
Right. And she was born at 5:03 in the afternoon, and I wept, man, because I'd never had anything to do with something so perfect in my entire life ever. And the second reason was I had a final, you know, this is the reason. This is it. I'm never going to use it again.
Right.
7 hours later, I'm loaded in a bar.
Well, you got to have a
7
little.
hours, right?
You
Like,
got to
I
have a
didn't
little
make it
congratulation drink.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
You deserve
Hey,
it.
You deserve
Absolutely.
it. Right. You're a
And
new dad.
Yeah. And then mom says, you know, hey, wife says, well, you know, I'm going to be in the hospital. You might as well sleep at home tonight. And I'm like, okay.
I'm
There's a
in.
check. There's another day.
Right.
Right? Check. There's another day.
Right.
Oh, day 3. Time to she's coming. Oh, I'm carrying my daughter over the threshold of our house.
Yeah.
I will not do it again. Studies show that children don't remember anything for the first 3 years.
Right.
You know,
There
so I
you go.
keep pushing this line
Yeah.
out. I just keep pushing it out. And by the time 3 years old hit, her mom had enough and took her and packed her up and took her onto
Right.
the in-laws' house. And that was pretty devastating.
Yeah. Oh, you mean I fucked up?
Yeah. I mean,
Right,
it was
you had that
really,
moment.
you know, about my daughter. Like,
Uh-huh.
I was okay-ish with the wife going,
Uh-huh.
you know, but it was my daughter that was just, I was holding it together for her.
Sure.
I wasn't holding it together,
Right.
but I was, you know, I got a lab in the garage that my wife thinks is
Right.
for cleaning the lawn equipment that I never use. Right?
Right.
But you know, she takes my daughter, and suicide then becomes an option. I start thinking, man, I've done this rehab thing. I've done the God thing. I've done the 12-step thing. It doesn't work.
Right.
There is no God. There is no solution.
Right.
And I'm not going to raise my daughter behind plexiglass, whether it's a psych ward or a jail. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just not going to do that. So I'll check myself out. She's young enough her mom can make some romantic story about how her dad died.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I met God at the end of a rope. Like, I tied the rope off. I didn't make a Facebook post. I didn't call anybody. I just
Right.
crawled up into the attic and into the rafters and tied it off. And as I'm stepping off the ledge, I'm struck, paralyzed, fall over. And I mean, tears are still streaming.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, just 4 more inches. Like, we can end this madness, because it's been, by this time, 22 years of trying to solve my problem.
Yeah.
And all I hear in my head, it wasn't some audible burning bush, was
Right.
call Cliff Bishop. I'm like, who the fuck is Cliff Bishop?
Right.
Call Cliff Bishop. Call Cliff Bishop. I finally resigned myself to call this Cliff Bishop guy, and I can feel my arms again. I take the rope off my neck. I climb down the ladder again, and I pick up the Dallas White Pages, And for you youngsters, there's
I remember.
this book that had phone numbers in it.
Right.
And
Hey
I
man,
looked-
that's the thing that the wrestlers used to like rip in half at elementary schools. Hell yeah.
that's how you beat someone without any evidence.
Hell yeah.
And I looked up Bishop Clifford, and there he was, the only one there. And it was this old dude answered the phone, and I said, I don't know why, but I'm supposed to call you. And he said, well, meet me at this group down in Dallas on Tuesday night. And I met him, and he introduced himself as a recovered alcoholic, and I went, great, here we go with this bullshit, recovered alcoholic.
All right.
It's like that Jedi mind trick that the old timers play on you, right?
Yeah.
How long do you have to go to meetings? Till you feel like going to meetings.
Yeah.
What?
Right.
There are 3 frogs on a log. 2 decide to jump off. How many are left? 1? No. 3. They only decided to jump off. They didn't jump. And so
What the fuck?
I know. I'm waiting for this punchline from the old timer. Like, what do you mean recovered? We never get well. We are always going to be sick. I heard Grateful Dave say he's one of the sickest people in the room after 30 years of sobriety. And he has me open up the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, which I'd had a second, third, and fourth edition by this time, right?
Right.
Like, they're the exact size for you to prop up your window AC unit so the water doesn't
Leak
come
in.
back in. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And so he had me open up this big book of his, and he had me read the title page, and it says the story of how many thousands of men and women had recovered from alcoholism. He had me read it out loud, and when I got to that word, I just stopped and realized I don't know shit about AA. I didn't know we could get well. I thought it was this
perpetual thing.
Yeah, white
And the servitude and
begging God for one more day sober and thanking him at the end of the night. So thank you for letting me make it one more day.
Right. Well, dude, but okay, that is pretty random that you call Cliff Bishop, right? And you had that name put in your head, and that you call this random dude out of all the entire white page.
The entire Dallas Metroplex. I'm living in Corinth, Texas. By this
and
time,
I mean,
right?
Cliff Bishop could have been like, somebody in medical sales that had nothing to do, but that he happened to be in the program and just first and randomly took your call and said, "Oh, cool." Yeah,
I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
We have shower chairs and
hold on,
toilets.
but hold on. I get Jesus referrals, or I get God referrals all the time. I'm Cliff Bishop. Come on, dude.
Come on.
Meet me at the meeting. God refers me all the time on suicide.
My name is
I'm used
Bishop.
to. Yeah, right. Yeah, but that is pretty crazy. Yeah,
it's nuts.
Yeah.
And he took me through the steps, and by the end of my second week, I'd made 60 face-to-face amends, which, in the rooms that I grew up in the meetings that I went to, I was told things like, it's not a race.
right.
It's not a race.
Yeah,
A step a month. Easy does it. Right? And he was like, no, next. And so when he said, next, I want you to do this, I hung up the phone. I did what he told me to do. Called him right back. I didn't wait. I didn't have a nap. I didn't smoke 15 cigarettes. I just,
did the work.
what he told me
Yeah.
to do, and I called him back. And so by the end of the second week, I've done 60 face-to-face amends. I'm asked to speak in a meeting, to be the speaker. 2 weeks fucking sober.
Right.
Okay, don't say no to AA. So
Right.
I tell my story, and this guy hears it, and he asks me to sponsor him at 2 weeks sober. I'm like, Cliff, what do I do? Well, just ask him the 2 qualifying questions, and if he means it, then, start working with him. Okay, and I did. And he started to follow the directions. And by the time I'm picking up my 30-day chip, the guy that I'm sponsoring gets asked to be a sponsor. I'm already too deep, at 30 days sober.
Right.
And, man, I just launched like a rocket.
Right.
I finally got the magic handshake that we can get well. I finally found out that it's not the meetings that you make that get you well. It's the steps you take that get you well. And, man, I went and I caught fire. And
Nice. Well, let's pause there for our commercial here. Our lovely sponsor, Max the Axe, with Lone Star Injury Attorneys. If you go to thispinklawyer.com, it will take you to Lone Star Injury Attorneys, and Max actually practices law in Texas and California. So be sure and hit him up, shoot him an email, and he will get back to you and get you maximum results for your personal injury needs. And then also we have...
Get you maximum results.
Hey, get you
That's what you just sounded like.
Thanks, man.
Shut the fuck up.
Okay, cool. But yeah, I mean, sometimes you just ignore Chad. You learn to ignore Chad and tune him out, and it's just like it's kind of like a child sometimes, and then they just get it, and we're not getting validated, so then they stop. But anyway, we have actually new music coming out. We've got a little something that you can play. It's actually, we've got some stuff coming out on my label. Hey guys, Kelly Reverb here.
Yo, what up, gang?
Super excited to announce the relaunch of Lone Star Records. We're starting off with the re-release of this classic track, remastered by this guy. Then we have a remix by my good buddy, legendary DJ Donald Glaude. And last but not least, we've got new stuff coming out from me and this guy.
Yo, what up, gang?
So be sure and follow us on all major streaming platforms, including Beatport. How is that?
He's so good. Hi, man.
Hi, man. We're back, man.
Hi, man.
Hi, man. So anyway, so excited that's coming out. Be sure and follow us on Spotify. We do have artist profiles.
Yeah, hell
More
yeah.
fancy. Yeah, so you had just caught in fire.
Yes.
And, dude, but I'm still, like, wrapping my head around the call Cliff Bishop, dude. You should have you should have shirts made.
Well, he's deceased now.
Well,
What if he was a fucking Geico
maybe
guy,
his
dude?
son, maybe Cliff Bishop Jr.
He's like, I'm not sure what you're calling me for, but I can save you at least 15% more on your car insurance.
Right?
Switch to Geico.
Yeah. Right?
That's awesome. So I catch fire, and I end up like doing a whole bunch of H&I. I go to Denton County Jail for 6 hours a week. I'm going to 6 different pods.
And for those that don't know, that's hospital and institutions.
Yes. And I'm bringing meetings into the men's pods, the women's pods. I am going to a lot of the local treatment centers here in the DFW area, bringing meetings in, and I'm doing 11, 12-step commitments a week. And my sponsor and Cliff is like, Don, you better pump the brakes. I'm like, if I don't do it, who's gonna do it?
God damn it, I've got lives to save.
I have the power, right. And so I did that pretty steadily for about 9 months, and I started getting super resentful at my group because this group is one of the biggest ones in Dallas that brag about how much 12-step work they do and carrying the message. And if you looked at the meeting list of all the places that we're carrying the message to, H&Is, you'd see Don R every day of the week.
Right.
120 people would stand up saying, yes, I've had a spiritual awakening as a result of the steps, and I'm willing to sponsor you. Like, where are you guys on Tuesday night? Where are you guys on Wednesday? How come you're not helping me on Thursday and Friday? Like, I need some backup here. I started getting resentful, which... not a good thing for us.
Right.
And at 18 months sober, I fell off again.
Okay.
Man, I just wish I had a straight line story for you guys.
No,
One chip wonder, but
dude.
I am like the chronic relapser.
Yeah.
If I don't do what I'm supposed to do on the regular, I'm gonna get loaded. It's just a matter of time. It's not an if, it's a when.
Right.
And lost the next girl. Sad story.
Well, it sounds like you get comfortable, and then with the comfortability or the comfort, you get complacent.
I back off every single time. Or in that instance, I went, crazy with carrying the message and not like practicing these principles. The book says in our respective homes, occupations, and affairs, which means it's more important for me to be home practicing love, patience, and tolerance than it is to be going to a meeting practicing it.
Right.
Home first, then work,
right,
then everything else.
Sure.
I was never at home.
Right.
You know,
Because you were Captain AA.
man, I was the
Right.
poster boy. Look,
Right.
look at me go. Glug,
Right.
glug, glug, glug.
Right? Yeah.
Rarely ever seen a person fail who really follow our path.
And so, it wasn't a drastic loss. It wasn't a huge relapse. It didn't end in fire and explosions everywhere.
Right.
It was just the wake up call, and got back on the horse and did the steps again, and a little bit more humbled. And at 10 months sober, I was asked to help be boots on the ground for a little treatment center called Origins.
Right. Well, I think also what you say, like, I think that's why they have kind of unwritten rules, like in the program, as far as your sobriety and like, okay, you have to have worked the steps before you can sponsor somebody. I mean, there's a reason why that stuff is in place, because, hey, you're, sober, 2 weeks. And I mean, are you really capable of being an example and walking somebody else through the program?
Well, Cliff was a big advocate of that, because like the original founders, I mean, Dr. Bob was like 7 or 8 days sober when he said to Bill, hey, aren't we supposed to be helping other people?
Right.
So he was a big advocate of, helping people as quickly as possible
Okay.
to get out of our own way. Right?
And I
I'm
can
not
see
focused
that.
on
Yeah,
my
I can
own
see
stuff.
that as well. Yeah.
And so when I felt like burning the ex's house down because she was using my daughter as a weapon against me, he'd say, go to the 24-hour club and buy someone a pancake and tell them your
Go
story.
talk to the first guy on the blue mat you see.
Yes. Right. Yeah. I'm like, how in the hell is that going to stop me from buying accelerant and burning down her house? He'd say, just do it.
Yeah.
All right, Cliff. But I think it was the excessiveness of the all or nothing in carrying the message.
Well, it's the addict mindset, man.
Yeah, the all or nothing. And so at 10 months sober, this next round, I get approached by the owner of Origins to help kick that project off. And it was a great experience. I was there for a couple of years and worked with some great minds and, great leaders in the recovery community, and became a workaholic and made work and money my god, and the chase for prestige, and I wanted to get promoted. I was told that they were going to open up places across the U.S., and I was like, my name's on one of them. They're going to give me one.
Right.
And I got sour.
Yeah.
Guess what happened?
Yeah.
And then I got loaded.
Yeah. Well, it sounds like you have this constant thing of getting resentment built up, dude.
Man, I do.
Yeah.
I get sour, right?
Yeah.
I get entitled. I get like the world owes me, and look at all I'm doing. And it wasn't until this last relapse, which was 6 years ago, that I finally realized, like, I don't get anybody sober.
Mm-hmm.
I don't cause them to relapse. I don't get me sober. How am I supposed to get you sober?
Mm-hmm.
And I stayed in the field the whole time. Helped start another project. Brazos created their 12-step program. Was there from launch and was the executive director. And stuff happened, and I moved on to another project. And, just stayed in the field because my heart has always been to help out people just like me.
Right.
That at Origins, there was a different clientele there, because of the price point that they were at, and they were serving a different kind of clientele than I was.
Right.
And there was a year and a half where I worked for a women's treatment center, which I'll tell you that I'm surprised I didn't get loaded sooner.
Right.
Because women are another entity.
Sure. Yeah. And they can add to the confusion that's already happening in your head.
Man, let me tell you. And they're a handful.
Yeah.
And so that business folded, and the owner and I had become pretty good friends, and I said, don't sell the building. I don't know how it's going to happen. And by this time, I'm now single father to my littlest girl. So one was taken because of my addiction, and one was given to me because of her mom's addiction.
Okay.
And so I raised my little girl, Stevie, up from the time she was 18 months until now. And she's 9 now, and I said, I don't know how I'm going to come up with the money. I'm living paycheck to paycheck, and but just don't sell this building. And I approached 11 people that could have easily written a check and not even missed it for what I was looking for startup capital, and all 11 of them said no. Actually, 10 of them said no, and one of them is still waiting to hear from God because he told me he was going to go pray about it. And I haven't heard anything back yet in 7 years. And what ended up happening is that one person heard about it, and they said, hey, I heard you're trying to start your own project. I've got a third. And then another one heard about it, and I've got your other third. And this other person who I was making financial amends to said, I've got your other third.
Right.
And thus, grew up recovered and free.
Okay.
Which is a peer-driven program, 90 days in length. We do have.
And now, is it an actual brick and mortar building?
It is.
Okay.
In a little small farming town called Hubbard, Texas.
Okay. And Hubbard, for those that don't know, that don't watch the weather report,
Right.
what is it adjacent to? What is it close to?
So it's in between Corsicana and Waco, or Hillsboro and Mejia.
Okay.
So about an hour and 20 from here.
Okay.
Hour and 15
All
from
right.
Dallas. And so I opened up Recovered and Free as an alternative to traditional treatment options. We weren't going to manhandle your inner child. We weren't going to deal with, trauma or, any clinical issues. It was just going to be one addict and alcoholic helping another one out.
Right.
No workbook, no fill in the blanks. No, it was going to be a genuine 12-step experience, and with no clinicians. And it's been, 7 years now. We're in our 7th year, and I wanted to make something that was affordable.
Right.
And I mean, even our price point is for 90 days is less than what treatment centers today charge for 1 month.
And this is in-house?
Yeah.
So this is people that can actually check in for 90 days and then you do the step work with them there while they're there in 90 days. And is there different options for like 30, 60, and 90?
There actually is. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, great question, because I was like 90 or nothing.
Right.
My first year.
Yeah.
And my now wife was saying, Don, why do you think you're so fucking special?
Right.
That God can come to you in 2 weeks working with Cliff Bishop, but it can't for somebody else.
Right.
I'm like, man. And she said, by the way, I've also tracked all the people that you have said no to a 30-day stay, and 100% of them are still sober, and they could have come here.
Right.
I said, okay. So now I've got, 30, 60, 90. Excuse me. I also have a 2-week jumpstart program for guys who have had 12-step experience. They've been sober. They've sponsored. They've done
then
work.
that's kind of what you actually experienced yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that, again, that's the brainchild of Danielle. And so this 2-week jumpstart program is just a safe place for an already experienced 12-stepper to get separated from drugs and alcohol, turn off the noise of the outside world, go back through the work of the 12 steps, and go back into life. And I've had people who have long-term sobriety come and take it just to reinvigorate their recovery. They haven't relapsed. They just came to get a little perspective.
Yeah, a little recharge. Yeah.
Yeah.
I got it.
Yeah.
Well, so, okay, so as far as traditional treatment and all that, what would you say differentiates what you have going on versus, something at an inpatient rehab?
Well, number one, we don't take insurance. So we're not dictated to what content we have to provide. Treatment centers that take insurance companies' money, they have to do what the insurance companies say. So you have to, take smoking cessation classes and how not to get STDs. And, I love this one, sleep hygiene.
Sleep hygiene.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
How you say you can have clean sleep.
Yeah, and there's also a thing I learned at a IOP center that I go up to a lot. if they started taking Blue Cross Blue Shield, that would require them to then have a clinical director and be on a specific program.
Right.
So that is one of their reasons they don't do that. And for a lot of their clients that do have Blue Cross Blue Shield, they end up scholarshiping them to get through that. So, and it's because it completely dictates the treatment that you give, and the treatment model is so fucking outdated. I don't want anybody telling me what I'm going to teach people.
Right, and I don't want the state to do it either.
Yeah, hell no.
That's why I'm.
They still don't. They haven't even upped their rates, dude.
I don't abide by anyone's rules or laws.
Yeah, man.
You know, and if that ever happens, I'll change my model. I mean, we'll become a religious organization.
So I
don't care.
I have a question for you. So then, what do you? I mean, are you? If you want to talk about this, but what do you charge for? Like, if somebody wants to come in for 30 days and in your program? Or?
Well, we have a graduated scale because the heavy lifting is done in the beginning, right? It's the most taxing to our staff. So if you come to the 2-week Jumpstart program, it's $3,500 for 2 weeks.
Okay.
If
somebody can't afford that, or they don't, and I mean, you don't have insurance involved.
So we don't have insurance, and it is self-pay. We do have several options available. There's a foundation out of Austin that helps men get into
sponsors
rehab.
or scholarships.
They provide scholarship funds.
Okay.
There's also a nonprofit that's just started up called Access to Freedom that I'm on the board of, and they're all about trying to provide a peer-driven solution to people who can't afford it, the underserved. So instead of like your option is state-funded, which people get sober everywhere. I'm not knocking it, but you got a state-funded option or nothing. We're kind of
bridging that gap.
Yeah, we're bridging that gap to where you don't have a safe place. You can find your solution. And I'm not saying that the 12 steps are the solution for everybody, but they are for the people who come to me.
Right.
It's not an accident that they show up there.
Right.
And so it's $6,000 for the first month, $5,000 for the second, and $4,000 for the third. And if the family pays for it up front, I give an additional $3,000 off. So that's $12,000. In most treatment centers, you're looking at $20,000 for 30 days.
Oh yeah. It's,
I mean,
it can get expensive. Really. It can get to be a racket. So so what you're basically is offering some inpatient care or in-house care, not necessarily. I mean, is there a medical aspect to?
No. There's no. We're in a non-medical and non-clinical environment.
So get your DTs out, at Presbyterian, and then come see us.
If you need a medical detox, right? I mean, heroin addicts think they're gonna die,
but they don't.
But they don't. But alcoholics and barbiturates users, they will die. So I won't take anybody who's trying to detox from that.
Right.
And if there is any medical necessity or emergency that jumps off at the place, we dial 911 because we're not trying to be doctors. We're not trying to be. We're trying to be one thing. Addicts and alcoholics who have found a solution. We know where you've been. We know the way out.
Right.
We're all here to show you.
Right. And we're here to kick your ass.
Well, we do a little bit.
A little bit.
Hell yeah.
I mean, some people need it. Some people need that.
Yeah,
it takes what it takes.
We're high accountability.
Right. And where can people find you on the interwebs as far as if they want to look up more information about you?
For Recovered and Free, it's recoveredandfree.com, all spelled out, or recoveredaf.com. We'll get you there. Access to Freedom, the nonprofit, is Access to Freedom, TX.org. If anyone wants to donate, those monies go directly to helping someone. There's no payrolls, there's no salaries, there's no.
How many people do you have at your facility now?
We can have up to 24.
Okay.
I average typically 8 to 12, so it's a very intimate setting.
Right. And then how many people work for Recovered?
We have 4 people, and I'm only there 3 days a week. So, because I live up in the Metroplex here. But I've got my right-hand man down there who really holds it down, and I've got a weekend guy, a night guy.
Yeah.
And we are actually looking to hire. I just posted something on Facebook. and I got a couple of interviews with guys
Mm-hmm.
coming up. So, we just run real lean. That's how we're able to afford
Right.
the pricing that we are.
Yeah.
We're not 60, 70 employees and doctors and
Yeah.
LPCs and, LVNs and all the L's. And
Right.
And I think something cool to point out too, because I've learned this a lot over the last probably like 6 months, is people like donating to good causes, not only because of the tax write-off, right?
Mhm.
But they want to know that their money is actually fucking doing something.
Mhm.
And because I see it a lot, I've been to a bunch of fundraising events and stuff like that, dude. And the money is out there, and
Mhm.
people want to give it to good causes,
Mhm.
right? And when you're bridging the gap from like, especially like with scholarship options, like that is such a that's a very growing market
Mhm.
for people to be able to like give generously and then actually see results from that. You know what I mean? That they won't even know it, but you might run into somebody 20 years later who went to that thing.
Mhm.
And that's like, so that's a huge deal, because it's not just the organization you were just talking about. It's not just for your organization either.
No, it's for any peer-driven program.
Yeah.
And there's not a lot of those in the U.S. or in Texas, but they are out there, and it's just to give somebody a leg up. Now,
Right.
I myself, and I'm sure my investors, I hope you're not listening, but I have scholarshiped very close to $1 million myself, just because I don't want people to die to this. One of
Yeah.
my best friends on the planet, Adam, he was taken from us too soon, and
Yeah.
in my lifetime, there's been hundreds of people who have sat before me, either knee to knee or in a classroom setting or a group setting, that aren't here anymore.
Right.
And I don't want to.
Well, I mean, that's where it comes in. Like, it's he's a great person, but a horrible businessman. You know?
Yeah.
And that's where that comes in. But I
Yeah.
mean, hey, if your heart's in the right place and you're a good dude, like I think you are, I think helping people out is more important than lining your pockets.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I agree with you there. There might be some people who disagree with me being a nice guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Kelly's
I
probably
get it.
just saying that because he's super intimidated by you, dude.
Right. That's exactly. I don't want you.
He's
to
whimpering.
I don't want you to kick my ass after this.
He just
right.
piddled in his depends.
That's right.
I won't split your wig on camera.
Right. Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming out, man, and sharing your story, because, I mean, like you said, dude, it's not really just always a straight line, dude. I mean, recovery is a journey.
Yeah,
And,
and if anybody
you
needs
know.
help, like I counsel families for free. I help with facilitate interventions.
And how
connect
can people reach out to you again?
You can reach me directly on my personal cell number is 817-240-4124. I'm not ashamed of giving that out. I don't care if there's trolls out there.
Yeah.
Call me. Maybe you got somebody in your family troll that needs help.
Yeah.
So, whether it's someone suffering directly or indirectly, or you don't have to be clean, you don't have to want to come to my facility. If I can point you in the right direction to get help,
Right.
man, I just want to be a part of that.
Okay. Cool, man. Well, thanks for coming on. And then anybody you'd like to shout out?
Personally, my wife, Danielle, who has walked me through,
Right.
She has walked me through so much. I don't even know how she stands me, honestly.
Cool.
Yeah. And, I mean, that's
the main one.
That's the main one, yeah.
Right.
I mean, I got great sponsorship, and Melinda actually sponsored me through CODA work.
Okay.
Codependency.
Yeah.
That becomes the next hurdle when you get sober.
Yeah.
I've traded in so many, sober chips, if you want to call them whatever, desire chips, around women, and it's not the women's fault.
Right.
It's my
Yeah.
problem.
Right.
Yeah.
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 Well,
I got
cool.
Great people down in Hubbard, Texas. I want to shout out to the city of Hubbard and all the people.
Right.
People down there, you guys are awesome and have just welcomed us with open arms, and we're super grateful for you.
Well, cool. Well, thanks for coming on, dude. I appreciate it. And be sure and hit him up. Chadwick, as always, a pleasure.
Yeah,
I
man.
think.
Did you did you do a tinkle with your dingus? You just did a little tinkle with his dingus. We need to go clean him up.
All right.
It depends.
I love it. All right, dude. Well, and then who do we have coming up next week? Oh, I don't know.
I don't know, man.
All right. But thanks for tuning in. Be sure and subscribe. And if you know somebody that needs help, reach out to us or reach out to Don, and his people in Hubbard, Texas. It is out there if you're looking for it. And other than that, we will see you next week. And there is no magic pill for sobriety, because if there was, we would all take too many.